I never expected to be a politician. It wasn't my dream.
Even now, I don't consider myself as a politician, because what means politician? I don't want to make a career in the politics and then to retire from politics.
Tak si niektorí ľudia robili srandičky, lebo už ma poznali ako tú právničku, ktorá hovorí komplikovaným jazykom, že preboha, že fúha, Irena, že ak ty chceš naozaj nejakým spôsobom hovoriť aj za tých slabších, tak ja mám pocit, že ti vôbec nebudú rozumieť.
Would like you to have on our list to become member of parliament. And I said, it's crazy because, you know, I'm 64 years old and I'm still a journalist and like to do that.
And just like so many young Hungarians, I felt that this country has no place for me. And I'm fed up with the struggles, fed up with the bad mood, fed up with the hate. And I just packed my bags and moved to the Netherlands to study for a second master's degree in the pursuit of a better life.
People want to fight injustice, people want to do the right thing, people want to see some change. But nobody wants to be part of a political party.
So it was the Easter Friday, the phone rang. Hello, I'm the Prime Minister. Would you consider to be State Secretary in my government? Of course, I thought it was a practical joke of my friends. So, come on, I'm sure you are the Prime Minister, I'm sure. No, I am the Prime Minister. No, it's a joke. No, it is not a joke. So it was the first time in my life when during the Easter holiday in my family, instead of getting some kilos, I lost 4 kilos, not sleeping and thinking, should I start working for the state?
In 2016, the Brexit referendum and the election of Donald Trump surprised the world. But in the years prior, the politics of Central and Eastern Europe had been flashing warning signs. As the former Soviet bloc countries celebrated 10 years inside the European Union, a wave of nationalist populist parties began a reversal of 25 years of liberal democratic reforms in the former totalitarian states. In the beginning, Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban seemed like an isolated exception in a stable and pragmatic region. Then suddenly, fueled by fallout from the refugee crisis, more Central European countries made a disturbing turn. A dangerous wind of change had started to blow. But among the bleak news, there's also a spark of hope. All over Central and Eastern Europe, people who had never been part of politics before have set aside their successful careers to get involved in changing the political trajectory of their countries. These are their stories. In 2015, Romanian society and politics were rocked by a tragedy. As hundreds of young people enjoyed a free metal concert at a Bucharest club, pyrotechnics started a devastating fire. 26 died at the club and 38 more perished in hospitals. The hospital death toll revealed a terrible secret about the state of the Romanian health system. Massive street protests led to the fall of the government. Someone outside of the political system was needed to manage the fallout.
So the president proposed me to become prime minister. I had 24 hours to decide whether I accept or not. Finally, I accepted. It was very difficult for me because I was not convinced that I am ready to assume such a responsibility. It was a little bit a crazy decision for me at that time, but with the condition to form an independent government not connected to political parties. Of course, I understood that I need to have a majority in the parliament, but on the meantime, to start some reforms. I was a little bit naive at that time because I really supposed that the political parties, all political parties, understood the message from the street, from the people, and they will be really ready to start deep reforms.
Those 6 months were quite relevant because I understood why Romania is a bit delayed comparing with other European countries, why the public system is so blocked, so bona fide, so not working. In about November, it appeared that that rumor about a new party who USR saved Bucharest Union initially, And they ran for the local elections, and they got an amazing result, 30% in Bucharest, which was more than double than they really expected. So they decided in June, they decided to run national. I said, okay, I will work in Sibiu. I will check the branch of USR from Sibiu. If they have a candidate for the parliament, so be it. It's a sign I will go back to my business. If not, I will run for the parliament. Okay. I met the people from USR branch in Sibiu, and it was like love at first sight.
In the short time before the next elections, the new government started critical reforms. But the progress was short-lived. In the 2016 election, the status quo Social Democratic Party came back stronger than ever. They did not just reverse the reforms, but began dismantling the foundations of the anti-corruption process.
The main priority for them, for this new government and the party who won elections, was to change the justice laws in order to protect their leader. And the people came on the street. And some people said, look, we are now on the street because in 2016, when I was in the government, with an independent government, we had for the first time the feeling of what it means to have a normal government, not an extraordinary one, but a normal one.
The actions of the government brought out a new wave of protests. In its midst, a new liberal movement around former Prime Minister Dacian Cholos emerged. It soon became a political party called PLUS. The closeness of ideas and values soon brought PLUS and USR together under the same roof. In the parliamentary elections of December 2020, the coalition achieved the third best result and became a key government partner.
If you create the right movement, you can mobilize this kind of energies, and the society can change very quickly. But you should inspire confidence to the people. Confidence that you really work for them and you really want to work with them and you need them also.
The old parties completely lose energy and credibility. And in this moment, the Romanian society is struggling to find a new direction.
This system, look, vote, you have to vote us and then we will take care of you for 4 years. This is the wrong way to do things. Our message now is, let's do things together. We'll go in the parliament, some of us in the government, but we need you in the next 4 years to change things. We need you and we have to work together.
50% of high school students are dreaming in this moment to leave the country, 50%. With such a figure, it's a huge danger that in, 15, 20, 25 years, Romania became just railway stations for changing the train from east to west. After 30 years, does exist that kind of wrong perception that, okay, decent, fair people should take care of their family, their business, their children's school, their house, their holiday, their life, and the politics, it's dirty, it's corrupted, it's not for us, it's not for the people, it's for the others. The bribe in hospital is about politics. The holes in the road, it's about politics. Everything is actually about politics. And it's so stupid to say, no, I'm not doing politics. I'm not interested in politics because it's corrupted. I think USR is exactly the party, and I would like to dream that in, 5 years, 10 years, somewhere in the future, the people will start to understand from the kindergarten, from the high school to the rest of their lives, that it is exactly their duty and their power to be part of the politics.
In 2013, Budapest announced its candidacy to host the Summer Olympic Games. An avid sports fan and stadium builder, Viktor Orban saw the Olympics as a crowning achievement of a historic reign. But the years of liberal, regressive politics were waking a new kind of opposition.
At a certain point, I just started to feel responsible. That if everybody leaves, that who will make the country a better place? What will happen with those who struggle? What will happen with the elderly people who just cannot afford to move countries anymore? So I started to look into possibilities on how could I help. And this was the moment when an old friend of mine from high school called András called me, and he presented his idea about founding a party. So what place could we play young idealist people without money, without powerful sponsors, without the organization background one would imagine to need for a political party? But you know, his enthusiasm just somehow got to me, and I was thinking more and more about it at long nights when I was just reading the terrible news coming out of Hungary. And then at one point I decided to give it a shot. During our first campaign, we were collecting signatures in the winter in -10 degrees. It was the record coldest winter ever in Hungary, and my toes almost froze during the, 12, 13 hours I was standing out in the cold, in the snow.
In the winter of 2017, the newly formed Momentum initiated a campaign for a local referendum to stop Budapest's Olympic bid. The No Olympia campaign argued that the Games and the accompanying corruption would swallow billions needed to fix the country's education, healthcare and infrastructure. On February 17th, Momentum submitted 266,000 signatures, twice as many as required. 5 days later, the city withdrew its Olympic bid, and the starting gun on Momentum's political future went off.
Well, a few years passed, and we are in the European Parliament. We are in so many city councils, holding mayoral offices. We are doing legislation. We are in a place where we can start making our ideas to be part of the lives of people. Last year, the United Opposition won the local elections. We have our own mayor running Budapest right now, and now the United Opposition is polling very close to Fidesz, sometimes even beating it. I will never accept that Mr. Orbán will be here to stay. Every regime falls at one point.
When the party of an extremist right-wing mayor of a small Slovak town shocked its way into parliament, a group of intellectuals felt it was time to leave their successful careers behind and build a different vision for modern Slovakia. Less than a month later, their leading economist Martin Filko drowned in an accident on the Danube. The tragedy convinced the close circle of friends that waiting was untenable. Progressive Slovakia was born. In just 3 years, a member of Progressive Slovakia would be president of the country. Their candidate would be a mayor of Bratislava, and they would win the most votes in the European elections. And then came shock. In 2020, in their first parliamentary elections, Progressive Slovakia falls 1,000 votes short of entering parliament. Disappointment leads to a courageous move. Progressive Slovakia selects a human rights lawyer and a member of the marginalized Roma community as its leader.
A tak vlastne vznikla skupina cirka 10 zakladateľov, ktorí jednak zdieľali spoločné hodnoty, jednak verili, že politika sa dá robiť aj ako veľký koncept o veľkej vízii. Že sa dá robiť tak, aby sme to boli my, kto ovplyvňuje voličský dopyt, a stávali sa trendsettermi a tými, ktorí dokážu ukazovať ľuďom, že tie hranice a predsudky a strachy máme iba vo svojej hlave. A to bola postupne aj taká jedna z DNA črt progresívneho Slovenska, že sme verili, že Slovensko má naviac, že môžeme otvárať naozaj témy súvisiace s globálnymi hrozbami, že môžeme ponúkať slovenskú politiku konečne, ktorá nie je provinčná, ktorá sa neobmedzuje na ten bezbrehý populizmus, ktorá neprichádza s riešeniami použiteľnými na 4 roky. Mňa osobne tým, že som teda žila témou extrémizmu, asi oveľa viacej desili práve tie antisystémové sily, lebo na konci som dôverovala, že tie establishmentové strany si vždy snad zachovajú nejaký kus príčetnosti a ani pre vidinu politického prospechu nebudú nejakým spôsobom sa podieľať na deštrukcii demokracie. Aj keď aj u nás sme boli svedkami toho, že veľká časť tých klasických štandardných strán v snahe obstať v súťaži s extrémistami sa nechala nimi inšpirovať a potom to boli už naozaj akože len preteky, kudnú, kto je väčší populista, kto je väčší anticiganista, kto má menej rád migrantov a takto. Čiže buď sa v istej fáze bránili systém so všetkými jeho chybami, aby teda nedovolili legitimizovať extrémistický narratív, alebo sa iná časť tým narratívom inšpirovala. A to bolo vlastne aj takéto východisko, a to boisko, na ktorom sa rodilo progresívne Slovensko. Ako tretia strana, ktorá presne nechce ponúkať opravárske nejaké detaily v jednotlivých rezortoch a tým ľuďom zaslepovať oči, že ako to veľmi zmení ich život a teraz už bude štát spravodlivý ku všetkým.
Striving to become the youngest head of government in the world, Sebastian Kurz creates an unsavoury coalition between his Conservative People's Party and the right-wing Freedom Party. Herbert Kickl, the new Freedom Party Interior Minister, states, "I believe that it is up to the law to follow politics, and not for politics to follow the law." 2 years later, a secret recording from Ibiza is leaked. The head of the Freedom Party, Strache, is seen boasting about his ties with Russia and discussing the idea of a Russian takeover of a popular Austrian tabloid in order to help the Freedom Party's electoral prospects. The leader of the young Liberal Party, Neos, is the first to call for the government's resignation. Elections are held. Neos reaches out to a prominent journalist, Helmut Brandstetter, to join its list and has its best showing, winning 8%. But with Sebastian Kurz riding his personal popularity to remain Chancellor, not all is well with Austrian democracy.
Will Austria be a democracy in 20 years? I do not know. As I always say, it's part of populism is to divide society. And I heard it from the Chancellor Kurz when I still was a journalist. He said, "You are my friend or you're my foe. I expect you to be my friend and you write more or less what I would like to read. If you're not my friend, you are my foe. You cannot be a journalist who is independent. If you want to kill a fish, you can beat the fish or you can just wait." And that's the Austrian way. That is the nice way. They wouldn't say we influence newspapers or we buy or we do too much pressure. But they do it with commercials and they offer, if you're, as I said, if you're my friend, you get more money, you probably get another post. One of the words Mr. Strache, who was then Vice Chancellor of Austria, said was, "We want a media system like in Hungary." And he said, "Zack, zack, zack. We go into newspapers and we find out who are in favor of us, who are against us. We kick out those, we bring out new people, so we change the media world." And he said a few other things also in this video. And when I saw the video, I was convinced at the very second, this is the end of this government. And since I already had seen as a journalist that the country gets more and more authoritarian, I was sitting down the next Monday starting to write a book. I knew that it has to be finished in 4 weeks because there would be elections in fall. And I was sitting down, and the more I was writing, during my writing, I got more and more convinced how they are about to change our society. And I wrote it down in this book. And when I was nearly ready after 4 or 5 weeks, and it was clear when the elections would be, I got a phone call from an old friend who was working who used to work for the Conservative Party, for ÖVP, but then was working for the Liberal Party, for Neos. And he said, "You know, we're talking about you, and we were talking about the next elections. We would like you to have on our list to become Member of Parliament." He was quite good in convincing me, and he explained to me, "Look, you did everything and what you could do as a journalist. Why don't start a new career? And we have to get stronger as a liberal force, because he said, you're writing about how much Austria becomes an authoritarian state. If you want to fight that, fight it as a politician.
In the days leading up to the 2015 elections, moderate President Branislav Komorowski seems headed for re-election, with a solid lead in the polls. But the end of the day brings a shocking turn. The Law and Justice Party candidate is in the lead and ultimately wins the election. The centrist Civic Platform's government is soon replaced by populist nationalist rule that swiftly bent public media to its will, took a hammer to Poland's independent judiciary, and most recently passed a backward anti-abortion law. With Komorowski's loss, his aide Monika Rosa thought about going back to Silesia to resume a career as a local journalist. But her friends at Nowoczesna, a new liberal party, suggest that she go back to run for parliament instead. Now a deputy in the Sejm, she ends up at the front line in the fight against the destructive populist wave drowning Polish politics.
I think I grew up during my job for Chancellor, the President of Poland, from just activists to maybe better formed citizen. But after the job, I understood that if you wanted to make Poland a better place, you have to decide to join or a political party or movement, and you can make Poland a better place to live step by step. It won't change immediately, unfortunately, but we can do it together step by step. That's why I decided to join Nowoczesna. Nowoczesna in 2015, when PiS took all the power, was seen as the most active party in parliament. We're a team, we're full of energy. We thought we'd fight with peace and change Poland. It was everything but fun. And it was a constantly fight in parliament. And we lose another battle and another battle and another battle. So it was a long journey. Not everyone here in Poland satisfied the situation after 1989. And they found the key to Poles' hearts. They said them that it's not your fault that you are struggled again and again every day with everyday issues. It's Civil Platform fault, it's SLD fault, it's everyone's fault but not yours. And we give you back your dignity. We are focused on these biggest values as women's rights, but what does it mean? It means to have an opportunity to be treated equally as a man in your job, to have an opportunity to go to the doctor, to have an opportunity to have a chance that your children will go to the kindergarten. And so the values and ideas are above these ordinary things, but they are for these ordinary things. And we as politicians have to solve these ordinary problems. I could feel lonely in Polish parliament when we lose another voting and another voting. But on the other hand, I feel like a part of the biggest family and biggest movement in the European Union, open, liberal, democratic movement. And this feeling empowers me and makes me stronger and keep on what I'm doing here in Poland.
"25 years after the fall of communism, Bulgaria's justice system had preserved one fatal flaw from the constitution of the totalitarian state: a chief prosecutor with extraordinary power and no oversight. With Liberal lawyer Hristo Ivanov becoming Justice Minister on the heels of massive anti-corruption protests, for a moment it seemed that at least a small step in the right direction might be possible. A change to the constitution was negotiated, approved, and even passed at a so-called first reading. Remaining was just the second reading. Instead of affirming the agreed text, the parliament, led by Prime Minister Borisov's party, reversed direction completely. Sneaking a last-minute change, the deputies solidified the supremacy of the chief prosecutor and his unchecked power to stop any meaningful corruption case at will. Hristo Ivanov resigned on the spot. Exactly 1 year later to the day, he announced the formation of a new liberal political movement, Da Bulgaria. In 2021, the party joined a coalition that got the most votes in Sofia and entered parliament with 10% of the national vote.
We stand a very good chance of not simply being in the parliament. We are able, in a stark disproportion with our electoral weight, to impose the agenda of the national public conversation. Judicial reform became a central question about how Bulgarian state is organized. Is it based on law? Is it government of people? Or is it government of laws? Is it based on personal relationships? Is it based on rules? And then what do we do about corruption? What is justice? I thought I'm dealing with a very specific constitutional and legal element of the state, and suddenly it turned out to be a central political question, central for the very idea about Bulgarian statehood. And the question about the European standard of justice and European standard of being a citizen somehow came in Bulgarian politics through the cracks of this very technical and peculiar issue of the judicial reform. And I was caught in the middle. The thing that I was always sure that I will not do was party politics. I had the opportunity to become a minister of justice in a cabinet that I knew from the very beginning that it has absolutely no intention to make judicial reforms, that they have actually quite the opposite intention. They wanted to preserve everything as it is, but they needed someone to create an impression, a lie. And I agreed to be that lie because I was hoping that if we can have someone in the position who would actually genuinely work for that reform, genuinely name the things with their actual names and doesn't lie and doesn't cover up. And if we have someone who is trying to mobilize the sort of public opinion in Bulgaria and then the European institutions, that might produce enough of attraction to sort of overcome the original intent of subterfuge. And in a way, it didn't work like planned, but then it worked like intended. Because what happened is I felt I wasn't able to overcome the will of the government and of the political class in Bulgaria to preserve their ability to abuse power. And I had to resign. But then I think it created a public drama and created a sort of illustration of what's wrong and what's the problem, which then over longer term mobilized people and created focus for mobilization.
What means freedom means assuming responsibilities. If we want to really change society, we have to assume also the responsibility to run for elections.
Personal mission of mine and also a mission of my party, to show to the world that Hungary does not equal Mr. Orbán. We believe in conversation, and we believe in having long talks with whoever comes our way, be it our supporter or be it from the completely other side of the camp, just to talk about life, to talk about politics, talk about the future of Hungary, of Europe.
I founded the television station in Austria with three other people, and that was very, very complicated. But to found a party in Austria where, you know, everything is social democrat or conservative is kind of impossible. So when I heard that Matthias Strolz was founding a new party, I really thought he's my hero, you know, because it's so difficult to do that.
New parties and new energy emerge in the politics because USR opened the door.
If I were not a dad of two small kids, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. Contacts fight. It's not simply fight with words, it's a very physical in a sense. With the reality that, you know, there are people that have enormous illegitimate power in this country that make a lot of money out of that power, but it's not about the money. Power is an end in itself.
A toto ma teší, že proste už dnes, nie teda o 50 rokov, sa im snažím ukazovať rôzne momenty toho nadšenia a viery a ako veľmi je nevyhnutné, aby sme za ním bojovali, pretože tak je to správne a ja chcem, aby moje deti vedeli už teraz, že ktoré tie boje sú správne.
No, I believe that ordinary people, and I'm an ordinary woman, can make extraordinary things.